What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Martian and Ozzy podcast. This week, we're back to talk about the UFC 290 pay per view going down this weekend from Las Vegas, Nevada. International Fight Week. Got some good title fights between Pantoja challenging Moreno for the flyweight title, Jauregui-Rodriguez and Volkanovski looking to unify the featherweight championship. And a pretty good pay per view card. It's taken some hits over the past few weeks, but still good 4 fights on the top of the card. Some interesting fights going on throughout the entire card, so should be a good one. And I'm joined by my co-host, as always, Ozzy. How we doing this week, my man?
Pretty good. I'm excited to see, the middleweight matchup in particular this week. Two guys that, Whittaker has just been a staple, and obviously DDP, been a big fan of his. And the guys I just love DDP. I'll get into it a little bit later, more so. But, I think that's definitely the fight, the best fight on the card for me. And then that grudge match between Pantoja and obviously Moreno is also pretty good. But yeah, solid card overall. A few squash matches, but I think it's fair.
Few squash matches indeed. You wrestling fans don't know out there, but this card will have several of them. But just a quick recap of last week. A couple of our boys came through for us. Hinat, Dawson, we were both on those guys. A couple of guys didn't come through for us as well. Ivanov, Max Griffin, but very good card overall. I'd say it was a good profit for me, 3.16 unit profit. Um, any thoughts from the card overall?
No, other than I think Kevin Lee looked. He just looked kind of the same way that he looked honestly against Diego Sanchez. It just even if he didn't get hit with that shot, I don't think it would have mattered, all too much. But yeah, it was a good card overall. I thought, Carolina held it down as well. That was great. Um, but yeah, they kind of went, I think, mostly as expected. I feel that we had that like one really abrupt finish in that Bruno versus Ruzaboyev fight. But overall, pretty good card. Not too
Yep.
many bumps.
Abus, terrible fighter. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that was a good one. Yeah, that was a good pickup, and the live number on Strickland was pretty generous there. That was interesting.
It was. He Albus might be one of the worst guys ever in a main event in the past several years. What what the hell was that? Honestly,
Just
but
trying. He tried a little bit, but Sean
a lot of
Strickland, he knew what he had to do in that fight. That was a silver platter for him.
a lot of underdogs won. I think maybe six underdogs won. Brenner came through as a massive underdog in the first fight. That was a pretty crazy comeback. But yeah, it was a good card. I enjoyed it. Um, Enough about that one, though. We're moving on to the first of 14 fights in the lightweight division. Camuela Kirk taking on Esteban Ribovics. The odds for this one are Ribovics minus 145, Kirk plus 125. Reading the lines off of Bet Online, and a lot of steam coming in on Kirk the past few days. I think this is a close matchup. You got the more proven guy in Kirk versus the younger, more of a prospect in Ribovics. I think we know less about Ribovics, but still think the guy's promising. I think we saw a pretty good level up in that fight against Loic. Took that fight. Loic actually took that on short notice, but still, it was a new opponent. It was short notice. It was a tough wrestler. And I just think he looked good there, and he got up from a lot of takedowns. His striking looked good. He looked aggressive and powerful on the feet. So I like what I saw from there from Ribovics. Kirk coming off a pretty long layoff, got dominated by Jackson in his last one. I think this is going to be Ribovics' fight, basically, because the way it comes down to is on the feet. I just think Kirk is a little too lackadaisical. He likes to kind of take his time and admire his strikes. I think Ribovics just goes for it. He throws hammers. He comes at you hard. I just think he's going to bring a higher pace to this fight, and that's eventually going to win him this fight down the stretch. Might even knock Kirk out in these later rounds, but the prices aren't too good on that. So I like Ribovics here. Maybe Ribovics live here. Any thoughts for you on the first fight?
Yeah, the Jawaian here, he's got some good attributes. He's got a few good skills. He's a decent grappler. Um, but I feel like anyone that has paid attention to his career has seen that he's either slowed down, often, or maybe fought other guys who also slowed down, like the Daniel Swain, dude, Makwan Americani, Kevin fucking Kroom. Kevin Kroom didn't need he didn't need to slow down for him to get him. But the point that I'm trying to make is as he went up to the top level of the sport, it seemed like after, the early rounds, he's not really too much of a threat. So, Esteban, let me go with. He hits the body, he changed, I think he's a little bit of a switch hitter as well. There appears to be maybe a bit of a reach disadvantage here, but I don't really think that's going to matter all that much. To be honest, just the hands of Esteban, I think, are far superior. So, I mean, I think there's been some, some action on the Kirk side. I think I'm gonna go against that here. Overall, he's also moving up in weight class. Right, his last fight was at 145 against Damon. So I mean, Rubovics is not a big 155er, so I think that cancels out. But if I could get this under minus one, maybe 140, I think is where it's hanging out. We're trying to get close to the 130. I think I'll try to come in here. But not really antsy to pull the trigger, but I do think that the boxing and the striking should get him the win here.
Yeah, good points about the body punching and the lightweight. I really hadn't thought about that too much, but yeah, I mean, he fought Swain at lightweight, but his past 10 fights all at featherweight, so he should be probably the smaller guy in there too. Um, we're moving down in the flyweight division next. We got Shannon Ross taking on Jesus Aguilar, two guys featured on the worst fighters over the past few years list. Jesus minus 144, Shannon plus 124. What do you got in this flyweight fight?
So you're just looking at Bet Online for the props, right? I guess
Yeah, I
here
think that's the only one
overall.
that has the props out. DK and Fandor are slagging behind on them.
Okay. I wasn't sure if that was a best fight odds error or something else. Okay. Yeah, this fight I'm not that interested in overall. Shannon Ross, I don't really think he's a UFC level fighter at flyweight. I think he's got some talent, some skills, but overall, when he fights guys that have the attributes with the talent and the skills, it's not really a good idea for him. Aguilar, I'm not sure if he kind of fits that mold. Although I do think he's an okay grappler, but he just not an overwhelming guy. These guys are just gonna go at it. They're like the minor league, the pee wee football version of like the Australian versus Mexican shit or whatever is going on across the whole card. So ignore this fight. Honestly, respect to both guys. If I had to choose, I'm obviously picking Mexico every single time. My North American brethren, 2026, we're united for the World Cup. And yeah, so I'm gonna go with him. But I don't care about this fight too much.
Yeah, so both these guys are no good in my opinion. They're both just not good athletes. And flyweight, you have to be a good athlete. And Jesus, his whole game is revolved around that guillotine. I think the guy's actually a pretty bad grappler overall, though. His wrestling, his bottom game. I mean, that fight against Ferreira on the Contender Series, just piss poor shit. Really bad grappling in that fight. Shannon Ross has a terrible chin. He's really has trouble taking punches, but Jesus doesn't punch hard at all. So I mean, for Shannon, this is actually a pretty forgiving matchup. And going into the fight, I was thinking, there's no way I could consider betting on Shannon Ross, but just rewatching some Jesus footage, I actually think I'm more eager to fade Aguilar than I am Ross, and you are getting plus money, which you probably won't get ever. I mean, if Ross wins this fight, you will probably never get plus money on an Aguilar opponent again, because he will be the one being the underdog. Which you probably should be, because Ross, I think he can probably deal with the defensive grab or the offensive grappling. He could probably outstrike Aguilar, and I think this one actually will go to the decision. I think the odds for this one ending inside the distance are off. I mean, they have Aguilar sub at 2-1. That's no good. So I think GTD here is good. Shannon Ross by decision is also good. Um, but yeah, what was so funny about Aguilar sub
No,
200?
the fact that that motherfucker sub is 2-1, dude, that shit is hilarious.
It
Because
is. And
sometimes the most simplest, answer is the answer, Martian.
that is true. We're keeping things rolling in the bantamweight division next. Was supposed to be a really sick fight between Cameron Simon and Rodriguez here, Christian Rodriguez, but Terrence Mitchell is filling in, the Alaskan bantamweight champion. or flyweight champion or something. But anyway, the odds for this one,
I didn't even know they had 125ers in Alaska, dude.
yeah,
I
well,
thought you
he
had
was
to
on.
be. I thought you had to be husky to live up there, bro.
He was on the Ultimate Fighter when they did, like, champions, yeah,
Yeah.
so he technically won, like, a championship, yeah, AFC Flyweight Championship back in 2015, um, then Kai France just knocked him out in 30 seconds, but, odds for this one are Saaiman -550, Mitchell +400. I mean, Mitchell, is kind of a role player. I haven't used that term in a long time, but man, I really think he's a big role player. I mean, he's winning fights and squashing guys up in Alaska, but those guys are barely real fighters, and so is he. And when he fights an actual real fighter like Cameron Saaiman, I think he's going to get exposed in there, and he's going to get finished pretty quickly here. I mean, wouldn't be surprised if this one went under 1.5. The odds for that are pretty juiced. 175. I honestly took Saaiman ITD when the line first opened here, but yeah, I mean, Saaiman should make easy work, probably even finish this guy in the first, maybe at the latest the second round. So did you look into Mitchell at all, Ozzy?
I mean, I was watching that what's it called? That tough. I saw that live when that dude got knocked the fuck out by Kirk-Ribovics. So, I'm aware of this guy. Obviously, like you said, he's pretty, skinny for the weight class. Simon though, he's just a nasty dude. I like how, just his background. He just throws a ton of shit, dude. He's throwing kicks for both legs, to the leg, to the body, to the head, push kicks, punches. He is 125 Dricus du Plessis because you don't know what the
35.
fuck he's gonna do. But I'm just saying, you don't know what he's gonna do. You don't know if he's gonna grapple or if he's gonna strike in this fight. Do you? You don't know. You have no idea.
No, no, you don't.
It didn't
I
make
don't.
any sense for him to grapple with that Steven Coslow guy, but he was doing it anyway. And then you're like,
And he lost in the
no,
round.
yeah, but he all right, but he's like the no, no, yes guy. You're like, no, no, yeah, yeah, keep going.
I see what you mean.
He's just wearing the motherfuckers out, wearing guys out. Beating them at their own game, just being a volume bully. And at a certain point, he'll probably overwhelm this guy, hit him with a big combo. I like this guy. I like his motor. Like I said, I think he's nasty. Like I think he's looking to hurt people in there. He looks a little. There's something about these guys. I don't know what it is, man. But I don't know. Like if anyone told me that they were like cyborgs, I'd be like, you know what? They're probably in fucking South Africa, bro. So just a little hunch, but something going on with these guys. Might wouldn't be surprised if one of them popped for being really anabolic. But Cameron Saaiman for sure gonna fuck this dude up.
I concur there. Next fight is in the lightweight division or light heavyweight division. Vitor Petrino taking on Martian-Prachnio. Odds for this one have Vitor as a pretty sizable favorite at -265. Prachnio +225. Ozzy, I remember last fight before Petrino, you came in at the last hour and you said I got Petrino here, and
That's it.
you look pretty good
Yes.
with that one there. So what do you got for his second UFC fight here?
Well, speaking of anabolic, boy, we got Vitor Petrino. We got Vitor Petrino. And the most impressive thing about that fight was, the live number in that fight against Turkali was the most interesting thing because I guess it was like some people thought it was 1-1 or there was maybe some doubt, but you could clearly tell that this dude was just not gonna get tired and he was just gonna keep bodying him. And it was like plus money or like it was like even odds, maybe a little bit, maybe a little juice on it. But man, I thought he looked good in that fight overall. I mean, obviously, is he technical? No, right now he's not technical. But early on, he is not like I think he knows that. Hey, I got my power in the first round that I'm looking to land. Maybe mixing. You saw the grappling, right? But that his horsepower overall, he's gonna be able to outlast some of these guys, a lot of these guys. And we saw Prachnio fade so bad against what's his name, Lins. I was terrible. And he was just circling around at some point and looking really disheveled and just like he didn't really want to fight. And he's just a big kicker. And do I think that look, the guy Prachnio, he's a kickboxer. Petrino sometimes comes in with his hands down. He's kind of just chucking hammers. I remember one of the shots that he hit that guy Hodolfo with. He brought that thing up from his kneecaps, dude. It was like an uppercut or something. I don't remember. But he was like they were just swinging for the bleachers. But in that Turkali fight, when he started backing him up, I like seeing the takedowns come. And obviously, Prachnio's got no ground game at all, man. This guy came from ONE FC for God's sakes. So I think Petrino should be able to beat him up. take him down maybe at some point. But you just got to be on the gas pedal right away, because if you get Prachnio some space, he's gonna hit you with that body kick, and he's the poorest man's Luke Rockhold. Try to game plan that you could put out there. So I got Vitor Petrino. I think you should be able to you should just be able to go harder, go and keep his hands up, and eventually take him down. So Petrino.
Yeah, I honestly think the grappling is probably going to be a factor here. Vitor did surprise me as well in that fight with his offensive wrestling ability, and that is maybe something I hadn't fully weighed out in this fight because Vitor, I think on the feet here, man, I don't think that his striking is very good. I mean, the dude is a freak athlete. He covers a lot of distance. He hits hard, but in terms of technique, I think the guy is just kind of just throwing really hard shots out there. I don't think there's a whole lot of thought or refined technique behind it. While Prachnio, I think, is the much better technical striker out of the two. Comes from that karate background. Knows how to use his reach. This guy when he first got to the UFC was thought of to be a bum, and then it just took him a while to get comfortable in there. But then now that he's
No,
kind of
no,
found
he's a
his
bum,
range,
dude. Come on.
he's
Come
not too
on,
bad.
he's a bum. Even
He's
though he
not too
beat
bad.
William Knight.
It was a great, yeah, bet I laid juice on him in that fight. It was a great bet. Um, but he kind of has realized his range a little more. He needs to stay at the kicking range, stay on the outside, just try not to engage in the pocket, and he can do all right and win some fights against some guys. But I am concerned about him getting taken down here, but I think that eventually he will start to get up from those takedowns. Victor's top game I don't think is anything good. I mean, he's kind of just hossing guys down to the ground, and he probably will be able to do that here. But if this stays in the feet, man, I just think that the big cage will be good for Prachnio here. The leg kicks, this guy really chops legs, and he throws a lot of consistent leg kicks. So if it's in round one and Prachnio hits Petrino with a few leg kicks and Petrino starts limping in there, all of a sudden the minus 250 favorite's going to be looking pretty grim. And also, guys, these guys are light heavyweights after all. I know Prachnio isn't a big hitter at all, but a one body kick, something that can always happen here. Head kick, body kick. I think that Prachnio, for being the better overall striker, I got to go with him in this spot for a 3/4 of a unit bet, plus 240 odds. He could get iced in round one, but if this fight makes it out of round one, I would be pretty surprised to see Petrino covering that big price. But the guy is a freak athlete, so he might just keep overperforming, and I might be wrong about this one. So next fight's going to be a catchweight fight in the 130-pound weight class. Edgar Chairez taking on Tatsuro-Taira. Tatsuro-Taira, massive favorite here over Chairez, coming in on a very short notice. Minus 1100 for Taira, plus 725 for Chairez. Don't even know if I'm saying this guy's name right. What do you think?
It's your
What's
turn.
the? Yeah, no, but what do you think about my Hispanic pronunciation of is it
I heard like
Chairez?
Chairez. I heard like Chairez.
Okay, well,
Chairez is fine.
it's going to be tough to memorize or to get the
Chairez or
pronunciation.
Chairez. Go with Chairez. Fuck it.
No, Edgar. It's going to be tough to get the pronunciation right because he will be in the UFC for such a short amount of time. Because Tyra is going to run through this guy. I don't think Chairez gives him any trouble on the feet. I think on the ground it should be a pretty decent washout for Tyra there. It just seems like a matter of, is it going to be round one or round two where Tyra finishes this guy? And for the price difference between the two, I'll go. Oh man, no, never mind. The price is shit. Plus 250 on round two. No bets here. No bets here, guys. Nothing I see appealing. What about you? Anything?
Yeah, my boy Chairez, he got some long ass limbs, so he's probably gonna get submitted, at some point. But he's tough. He's Mexican. I mean, his next fight is probably gonna be maybe the winner or the loser of Shannon Ross versus Aguilar for sure. He's definitely gonna fight one of those guys either in Sydney or in the T-Mobile thing on the Grasso undercard. One of those people he's fighting for sure, no doubt. But I mean, the guy's long. I feel he doesn't he remind you a little bit of that other Daniel Matos guy as well. I don't know, the Peruvian guy that's fighting a little bit coming up.
Yeah, a little
Yeah, a
bit.
little bit. That they're kind of like long strikers, so we'll see. The thing is, like I said, and he's got a long reach as well. That kind of I think threw me off. I think maybe it was only accentuated by the fact that Clayton Carpenter dude is so tiny. But yeah, maybe he'll have a few more fights in the UFC than you think, Martian. He's got a few Mexicans that he's got to score to settle with. Like Jesus Aguilar, Victor Altamirano, of course. So there are a few guys that he could square off with. So I'll go with Taira submission round one.
Yep. Maybe the only thing I'm looking at again is on the props is Tyra KO at 6 to 1. He does, kind of posture up and throw ground and pound sometimes from bottom. So,
You can't
um,
knock out a Mexican.
what about over under at 1.5 here? What do you think? Under?
What's the juice on that?
Over is plus 105. So,
No, I would take under for sure.
yeah, I think so too. Especially, guys only coming in on a week notice. Next fight
Mm,
is going to be a rematch, an
amazing
immediate
fight.
immediate
Amazing fight.
rematch, light heavyweight division, Jimmy Crute, Alonzo Menifield. Odds for this one have Crute minus 125, Menifield plus 105. First time it was booked, it was minus 200, Crute plus 175 on Menifield. I had a bet on Menifield there. We pushed on that one. But it's your turn to start this one off. What are you thinking
Um,
about the rematch?
Amazing fight. I love how in their last three fights, Menifield's, two wins and a draw, and Jimmy Crude's two losses and a draw. So, something's gotta fucking give here. And hopefully it's not another goddamn draw. Right? And because both these men are fully capable, this is definitely possible to happen again. Like what's the difference? I'm not if anyone wants to bet the draw here, I would do it, dude. If there's any fight that could go two draws in a row, dude, it's this fight
It's true.
because obviously both guys could kill each other, but they're both so durable, so tough. At a certain point, I feel Menefield, honestly, like he gets to a point where he can't knock you out because like he throws so much in these early shots that like you could just tell it starts to wear on him. But I was impressed, man, that he didn't, get submitted, end up getting submitted there. On a few occasions, or just like the fact that when they were in that clinch area, where they're just like pummeling and trying to hit each other and doing all that stuff is exhausting. So I was impressed by both of them with doing that. It was a sloppy fight, obviously. So I'm thinking both of them will urgently look to fight in maybe some kind of different way a bit. I think Jimmy Crute is gonna want to get a takedown early on Manyfield. But I think he's actually gonna throw some leg kicks too here. So I think we're gonna see some leg kicks, maybe a little bit of a tepid, a little bit more of a tepid pace. But then eventually they probably start going nuts on each other. So what's been the overall sentiment? Have people been liking this under here or this over? Like what have you seen? Where have people been leaning, do you think?
I have not been paying attention to that, but
No?
I'm
Okay.
looking at it right now. The GTD is plus 275.
That's what I'm
Like
saying.
it
So
just went the distance and it's plus
yeah,
275.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. So this is what I'm trying to get at. I think we might see a little bit more of a tepid pace, some leg kicking going back and forth from each other. Because I doubt these guys want to do what they just what they did last time. So I'm kind of leaning on the over here is at minus 115, minus 110, is gonna be right around there. So I'm leaning towards that. And then obviously when you do that, you need to maybe sprinkle a little bit on the maybe starts round three or it goes a distance and stuff like that. But yeah, I kind of like that bet a lot. And then if I had to pick a side, I would lean towards Crew, which is probably, a lot of people I think would just take Menefield. I don't like betting on Menefield. He's an enemy of mine. So, like I said, it's a lean. But if I had to bet, but I think I will, take a little bit of the over, because that will be a fun over as well, dude. Like, come on,
It
right?
will.
Like, imagine having goes the distance in the last fight, dude. What?
Riveting.
That's the best. Oh my
I
god.
I see a lot of bets on this. I'm looking through DraftKings right now. I think they just added these within the past few hours, but I'm seeing a lot of bets that are catching my eye. I already bet some of
You're
them.
out of breath.
I
You're almost out of
I
breath, dude.
I just bet goes the distance plus 275. I bet fight
Mhm.
ends by split plus 1100. I mean, both those things just happened. We literally just saw these guys fight 6 months ago, and we just saw it a majority decision.
The
We
fight,
just saw
the split is great because you think the knockdown stuff. One guy maybe have the dominant
round.
grappling, one guy have the dominant striking round. Definitely makes sense.
It's 11 to 1 on DK and 5 to 1 on Bet Online, so that'll probably move quick. But I'm also looking at a bet I already made as well. Alonzo Menafield, no scorecards minus 105 because in that last
Mm,
fight, I saw one guy was Menifield was pretty close to finishing Crute on the feet. The ref, had to tell Crute to fight back at one point. And then, Crute did get on top. He did look to have some chances to finish, but I'm thinking if he couldn't finish a gassed out Alonzo Menifield, then I don't see him finishing this one again. I don't see Crute, having the submission game to do it. So if anyone's finishing, I think it'll be a knockout from Alonzo. So that's why I like the no scorecards there. But the lines you mentioned, over 1.5, I like that. Yeah, just play for this fight to go longer. Like you just great point about, like, they're obviously not going to want to go balls to the wall like they did before. Crute said, I was so surprised by Menifield's speed. So he's probably going to approach the fight a little more cautiously. Menifield's probably going to be thinking, hey, I could have knocked this guy out if I was just a little more patient. I shouldn't have rushed into the clinching, went to the grappling. So if he hurts Crute here, he's probably going to look to be a little more patient and try to find that finish. So this really should go over 1.5. It should go late. But I gotta go with Menifield again. I mean, he did. I mean, he was fucking Crute up on the feet for 8 or 9 minutes in that fight, and he gassed out doing so. But one point I did see John Stargarian make about this one is that this one's in America. Last time Menifield flew to Australia to do the fight, and now this one's in America. Um, and Crute kind of got some help from fucking bitch ass Mark Goddard. We see guys grab the fence, do poke each other in the eye all the time. The ref's like, nah, I'm not taking a point. We see guys illegally knee guys in the head on the ground and they don't get taken a point. And then Alonzo grabs the fence one time and Mark Goddard's bitch ass tries to takes a point. So
Racism at work right there.
something's amiss. But next fight, enough about that one. That is electric right there. Next fight, women's strawweight division, Yasmin Jauregui taking on Denise Gomes. Jauregui is minus 350 here. Gomes plus 285. I mean, these are women. First of all, guys, they're strikers. They can grapple, but primarily strikers, no doubt about it. And one of them is 77.5% likely to win. Some books 80% likely to win. How many women strikers out there are 75, 80% to win a fight against another striker? I mean, Gomes isn't a bad striker of her own right. I mean, she just fucked up Bruna Brazil in her last fight, finished her in that fight. And Yasmin Jauregui just lost round 1 to Estela Nunez in her last fight. So I think this line is nuts. Not a super confident, super confident bet, but I mean, how wrong can I be on 3-1 Gomes? Only a half unit, or actually, no, three
Famous
quarters.
last words.
Three quarters of a unit for me. I did this thing where I was gonna bet only a half a unit, but then I typed it in to bet MMA and it said like 29 or 24%, and I was like, no, I gotta add more. Because I mean, guys, two women strikers, neither of them are bad. Jauregui's probably better, but she shouldn't be more than like 65, 70% here. So this line, happy to donate some on Gomes here. What are you thinking?
Obviously, the UFC, they set these fights up really good because even if Yasmin loses to Gomes, then they got a girl 2-fight winning streak, and then they put her on that Brazil card that Curtis Blades won. So the only reason I'm mentioning this is they don't give a fuck about who wins, right? Like these people be like, oh, they want this. They don't really care who wins all that much. Like if they did, they could honestly probably give Jauregui easier fight than a girl that trucked what's her name, Bruna Brazil in her last fight. But anyway, in this fight, I just think that Gomes, she's been in obviously a few bangers here overall. So I think we know that this is a action-packed fight. Jauregui doesn't stop, with the strikes. She's a pace bully. She hits the body, she hits the head. Her grappling is not good. But Denise Gomes, I don't really think she has good control overall. So, like, to control an athlete like Jauregui, I don't think it's gonna happen. But this does feel like a potential banana peel slip moment for the Mexican prospect here. Looking forward, she's seeing all this good stuff, going on with Yair and Moreno, and Grasso's got her main event. Everybody's like, pick me for Mexico Independence Weekend. Ay, 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 ay. And, this is when you fucking, you look past this girl and she hits you the right hand and then, you get, club and stuff. So yeah, I could see it, dude, for sure. Definitely. I mean, this girl's not like the most horrible 115er. And 115 is it's hard to show parity. So, I mean, or
Also,
not show parity.
GTD here is -125. I mean, 2 women strikers, -1 they think
You
the
said
fight's
that.
gonna
What there was one of those you said that and there was a finish. Which one was it? There was one of those recently that you're like, how could this
women?
finish? Yeah, it was
Women?
women. It was two girls. Yeah,
I don't
and I
remember.
was,
I
yeah,
doubt that.
it was very recently, bro. But we could move on.
Yeah, yeah, you're gonna need to find the receipts on that one,
I
but
will
don't you
find it. I
think
will find it.
my
I mean, I
55%,
guess they're gonna bang it out,
55%?
though, dude. They're gonna bang out.
Yeah,
What do you think is gonna
yeah.
happen in this fight, bro?
No, I think well, Gomes will probably win round 1, and then Jauregui-Gomes' volume will win her 2 and 3, and she'll win a decision. So
Jauregui is a lot
GT
better than Bruna Brazil, dude. Is all I'm saying. So she's
that
gonna
is
be
that is true,
looking to
but
murder this
the
bitch.
odds are
I'm
heavily,
just saying
heavily
she's
over
gonna be looking to murder her for 3 rounds. That's
bro,
not the vibe. That's not the vibe Bruna Brazil was bringing.
I
Bruna
don't think I
Brazil was
don't
not really trying that hard. I mean, she was not. That was a horrible fight by her.
next fight, 170 welterweight division, Jack Della Maddalena taking on Josiah-Harrell. Odds for this one, JDM -950, Harrell +650. Was supposed to be Philly's own Sean Brady. Highly anticipated match. The market was moving all over the place in the betting line. That one caused a lot of waves, and then all of it ended up being for nothing because um, Brady had to pull out second or third fight he pulled out of. So yeah. Um, what do you think of Harrell? Did you watch any footage of him?
No, not too much about this guy. I see that he throws a few punches. He looks to get takedowns. He's just a generic fighter. Like he shoot. Obviously you saw that viral. He's just a generic fighter. There's not really anything special about him. He's an undersized guy as well. I just feel that he's like a kind of guy who will be the kind of guy where Jack is kind of like hitting him with a few different shots, and then he's gonna look to like counter one, and then that's when he gets rocked with a hammer across his face. But tough dude. I could see him, eating a few shots that you think are fight enders, and then him holding up. You know what I mean? So if someone's betting maybe a starts round two, something like that, I don't think it's crazy. But I don't really think there's the grappling, for this guy, um, to to threaten in regards to winning rounds. And obviously, he's not. I don't really think he could submit Jack. So I think Jack's gonna finish this guy. But maybe, I wouldn't really play around with the over 1.5, under 1.5. If I was to play a total, it would either be starts round two or whatever, or nothing. But this fight, not the kind of fight I really invest in. So pass for me.
Yeah, I mean, not really much to invest in considering it's so short notice. You got to. I mean, Harrell first of all looks okay. I think he has a decent idea of what he wants to do in every fight. And that's go out there, disguise to take down behind some punches, hit takedowns, grind guys out on top. Think he has decent top control, decent ground and pound. But he's going to be way undersized here. He's not going to have any striking to get any respect from Jack Della here, and that's going to make it pretty hard for him to get takedowns. So he probably is going to get hit early and often here. Probably gets put away in round one. -200 for Jack in round one. I mean, that's probably about right. Um, I would say maybe. Jack did just submit club and sub Randy Brown, and Jack sub round one is 18-1. So maybe that's the only thing I can think of here is maybe hope that the same thing happens. He drops him with a punch. Harrell shoots a takedown. Jack taps him out or something. So yeah, that's the only thing I can think about there. Um, I've criticized that on Twitter already, but I know you guys are always following my tweets and enjoying the negativity and pessimistic tweets about the UFC on there. So no need to repeat it here. Last fight on the prelims, a sad day in MMA. Robbie Lawler's retirement fight, taking on Niko Price in the welterweight division. Niko Price is the favorite here, -240. Hobby Lawler -205. Robbie Lawler is just like probably one of the coolest fighters ever, honestly. Like one of the coolest guys, one of the coolest fighters ever. Great, great career. And let's hope he can pull off one more great moment in MMA, round off the career with a nice even 30 wins, and beat Niko Price here as a 2-1 underdog because, I mean, I was just talking about his accolades, right? Robbie Lawler probably, I'd say, pretty comfortably top 5 welterweights of all time, right up there with GSP, Usman. Robbie Lawler is right up there, probably number 3. And Niko Price, best welterweights of all time, he's probably like 150th or something. So, um, just at their peaks, Robbie is so much better of a fighter. So with this line right now, you're thinking minus 240 Price. Niko Price must be in much better shape. He must be in much better physical shape. He must be doing better in the cage lately. Not really, man. This guy has looked fucking paraplegic in there in his past few of his fights. I mean, he actually was one of the few guys to get outlasted by Donald Cerrone in the past several years. He lost both rounds to Phil Rowe and then got knocked out in the third round there. Had a really close fight with Alex Oliveira where he kind of landed like a takedown in the last 30 seconds of round 3 to steal him that fight. Um, so Niko Price, I never thought was that good overall, and I think lately he's looked, tragic. So I don't understand where people are getting the 70% Niko Price from here. I mean, I mean, it's not like Robbie Lawler has even been looking super chinny out there. In the last fight, his last loss against Barberena, I mean, he was whomping Barberena on the feet, just going. He just blew his load there. I mean, he thought he was gonna run through him like he did Nick Diaz, but then after 6 or 7 minutes of nonstop strikes from Lawler, he did slow down. Barberena took over. So if Robbie Lawler can just pace himself a little bit better and maybe take some of the percentage off of his shots here, I think he should be able to just pump out strikes and outstrike Niko Price here. Niko Price is gonna need a knockout to cover this price. I don't understand how anybody is thinking he's going to cover 70% here against the legend Robbie Lawler. So hopefully Lawler can pull it off one more victory as an underdog here. I got 1 unit on him at plus 225. And yeah, I think this line's kind of crazy.
Yeah, old fight or last fight here for old Robbie Lawler. Like you said in the last fight against Barberena, um, I don't know, what happened there too much. Barberena, that was just interesting how he was just throwing like kind of throwing with Robbie and I don't know, just ended up gassing him out there. But he was throwing shots with like the Nick Diaz almost way, which was funny because obviously that's the fight that he just came off of. But like not a lot of power, just hitting Robbie, coming back in the stands, doing it again, and just throwing crazy volume out. But Niko Price, on the other hand, I mean, once he starts getting tired, like his technique kind of gets real sloppy. You saw that in the Phil Rowe fight when he was kind of like chasing him, lunging at him. He's out of his stance, and he's just right there for like a hook from Robbie Lawler or a bunch of these, huge shots that he is fully capable of throwing. And if you're telling me that maybe now in a fight against Niko Price, Niko doesn't fight quite like Barberena, where he's looking to throw a lot of punches your way and kind of stay in the pocket and all. Robbie should be able to conserve a little bit more gas, I guess, make some of the punches count a little bit more, and maybe use his kicks a little bit here. But overall, Niko Price, he's after he's had a bunch of these knee surgeries, right? He goes out there with knee sleeves. He's not the most fleet of foot, I would say. But obviously, I don't want him shooting on Robbie Lawler. I remember painfully the fight where Neil Magny just wrestle fucked Robbie Lawler, and I was like, man, what is going on here? Like this should not be happening. Obviously, I don't think he could do that. But if it happened, it would be a bad way to go out. But it happens, I guess, to the best of them sometimes. But I do like, I mean, over 2-1 on Robbie Lawler, definitely in for sure. So count me in.
Sounds good. I wonder how many times in his entire. I mean, he was to Neil Magny, but like Neil Magny, Colby Covington, the guy sees 2-1 over are like proven top 10 guys, and that has never been Niko Price. So, main card time, 5 fight main card. A first fight is a fight that took a hit earlier this week. It was supposed to be Bo Nickel versus Trayshawn Gore. Instead, it's Bo Nickel versus Valentine Woodburn. And the odds for this one are minus 2,500 for Bo Nickel, plus 1,200 for Woodburn. I'll start it off with you. Did you watch any footage on Valentine Woodburn?
No, when did this fight get announced? I don't know. It got put together a bit
I'm
before. I saw a
pretty
few
sure it was
clips
Monday.
Monday. I saw a few clips of him. I did not see any fights of his in their entirety. I mean, he's I guess a little like somewhat the same size as Gore. Looks like he might have a little bit more power. Looks like
No,
he's
he's gotta
willing
be
to throw.
shorter.
Short. That's what I meant. Like he's like stockier, I should say. But he looks to like that he'll throw with power, and that's like the thing with what's his name? Trishan Gore. Trishan Gore just sometimes he gets timid, and then once Bo gets him in like one grappling cycle, it's gonna be over. But this is gonna be the same thing, dude. Like Bo Nickel, like I said with Grant Dawson last week, man. Some of these guys they get these takedowns on you, and before you know, it's like us grapplers are and it's tough with the striking. But on the ground, we're able to do 3 or 4 moves before some of these rookie guys, or even guys that are like a blue belt or a purple belt, even before they do one move. So that's why you see it be a blowout a lot of times, when you're in the grappling department for some of these fighters. Whereas, in the striking, you can't really do these, you can't really move all of that too much before the other guy counters you. And when you do, you want to set up the angle, blah, 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 all this bullshit that you need to be quick and stuff sometimes with. But with the grappling, it's just natural for these guys. So I think Bo Nickel is gonna throw a left hand, step inside, shoot a double leg, take him down, finish with probably like that same kind of arm triangle that incorrectly, right, Martian? Like you told me and Scrap, he'll finish his arm triangle incorrectly, just like he did the last time. But I
That
think
shit was
it'll
weak.
yeah, I think it will still induce the submission at 3:21 of the first round.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely could he needs to work on the arm triangle a little bit. He was doing a lot of things wrong. I could probably help him
Right.
out with that. But,
Mhm.
that was just a very simple submission for me to learn. I that was
Right.
a big go-to of mine, back in my competition career. And then, I
Use it
just
all
see
the time.
I see people doing it wrong all the time in the UFC. It's very frustrating.
Right.
That the head to the mat is a big thing. Once you get the
You
hands
got you
clasped,
got to come out with the
head to the mat.
technique of the week, bro. The technique
That
of the week, bro.
that is true. Well, if he struggles with it again here, I'll hook him up with a tutorial for
That's your
free.
call to action. That's your call to action.
Who names their son Valentine?
Dude, I don't
Also,
know the Woodburns, dude.
clearly, this guy also kind of looks like a little bit of a Alonzo
Don't
Menafield
relax. Okay, be
if you
careful.
took Alonzo Menafield and shrunk him down a little bit, you would get this guy. But I mean, he looks terrible. Honestly, he looks horrible. Just breezed through a few of his fights, and he looks so mediocre at everything. So Bo Nickel is probably gonna drown him and submit him in the first round. Just a matter of KO or sub. It'll probably very likely be sub. Lines aren't out for the props yet. But the over or the under 1.5 is -425, which is about as juicy as you'll ever see in under 1.5. Probably rightfully so. So that's going to move us along. What's funny though is this fight is really not that l- less interesting than Trayshawn Gore would have been. So next fight, lightweight division, fun fight here. All fun fights for the rest of the card. Dan Hooker taking on Jalen Turner. Jalen Turner still getting steamed, -280. Dan Hooker +240. Man, just I think seeing Dan Hooker as a 240 underdog here is starting to feel pretty wrong to
Mm,
me.
mm,
Um, Jalen Turner, he was finishing a lot of guys coming up to that Gamrot fight, and I thought that there's a chance that this guy might have be really, really leveling up, or there's a chance that he might have just been styling on guys who are way worse than him. And I think he did okay in that Gamrot fight. But I really just kind of saw the same fighter that Matt Frivola fought, back in 2019. Really, not too much different between those guys. Actually, Matt Frivola beat him easier than Gamrot did, for what it's worth, for people that are interested in that comparison. But, Turner on the feet, I think his boxing defense still remains pretty bad. He doesn't really move his head off the center line too much. He kind of just relies on being, bigger and longer than these guys. And I think, Dan Hooker's chin is weird. We saw Arnold Allen hurt him in bum rush, and we saw Chandler rock him with a punch and put him away. But then we've also seen him go to war with Dustin Poirier, with Paul Felder. We've seen him, his chin look good. So his chin is weird, man. So if Turner hits him with a big shot in the first few minutes of the fight and finishes him, I wouldn't be too surprised. But I think Hooker's got one of those chins where he really just needs to get hit a few times to wake up, and after that, he's good. He's kind of like Julian Erosa. But
Mm,
so I think that if this fight gets out of round one, I just don't see Turner covering 250, 300 here, man. I really don't. The guys who Turner has gone out of round one with and beat Jamie Malarkey, Brock Weaver, Josh Cooleybow. We're not really dealing with the cream of the crop here. So Coolabao is good, but that was up a weight class for him. Um,
yeah. Cool about the one you got to double back on.
yeah, he's the one who does. Although he did, but his most impressive win, Uros Medic. Honestly, I thought he looked really good in that fight. That win is aging well. So I don't know, man. I just think that Hooker is a big step up from some of the guys that um Turner has beat. I think I'm not really relying on Hooker wrestling success here. I think people are kind of thinking, oh, Hooker's going to come out wrestling. I don't.
Nah.
I really think that this fight will stay on the feet, and I think that if Turner doesn't get Hooker out of there, I think that this is actually going to be a lot more competitive than people think. If Hooker is in that flow state where he's throwing his front kicks, he's mixing up the straight punches, punching to the head, man. I think this fight's going to be close, and I think Hooker's going to be live at 240. So hopefully Hooker can win. He's, in my opinion, the cooler fighter. So hopefully he can pull it off here.
Yeah, I mean, Hooker knows how to grapple, but I mean, he's not gonna win this fight with grappling, I don't think. I mean, maybe if Turner is super rocked, yeah, he'll take him down and then finish him on the ground, or this guy gets gassed, but it's not really happening. Like this guy Hooker, he's a career, martial art, not career martial artist, but he's been in MMA a while, but just the grappling is not that great. But I like Hooker as well here a bit. Only because obviously he's got the reach as well, right? So I think, he's a technical kickboxer. He, come up with Adesanya. So I mean, he's the tall guy. There's a lot of tall guys over there in that city kickboxing camp. And he just has a lot of rounds with, guys in that long range, aspect of the fight. So I think the biggest factor in this fight is what do you think about Dan Hooker's durability? Can he take some, body kicks and, maybe body shots from Jalen Turner? Some of those big whipping hooks that Turner has. He throws some punches with like some unorthodox like arcs a bit here. But he's got like the leverage that he gets on the end of those shots is really significant. And you saw Jamie Malarkey, right after that last punch landed when he contemplated life and he's like, you know what, dude, I'm going down. Because my head is rattled, my skull feels like it's broken. Let me go to the ground. And I'm knocked out. But yeah, I think, if you were on Hooker, or if you were on Malarkey, if you were on Bridell, you gotta fucking go back to the well with Dan Hooker. Unless you don't, unless you're smart, or you want to maybe avoid Jalen Turner. But I feel like Jalen Turner is gettable, dude. He's gettable. I feel like there's some areas where he shows like the low motor. I feel sometimes as well as these fights go into those, second and third rounds. I think his cardio is not that great at 155. He cuts a lot of weight. He was saying he's doing this and that in Abu Dhabi and he gained weight or whatever the fuck. This guy's a big 155er. So I don't know if that's the best thing for him. So should be, I think it could there's many iterations of this fight when I try to play it out that is close. Be via game planning and as well via just I think that Hooker's a good person to carry it into those with a game plan into those rounds. So basically going into the second, the third round, trying to keep it technical kickboxing, turn up the pace, wear them out. So, Dan Hooker here and maybe with a finish here as well. So, maybe look at his KO number, submission number, KO 600. Not the best, but I think that's respecting him a little bit as well. So it's good. I think he's live here.
I'm looking at some numbers here, and I can't tell how relevant they are, but I'm gonna spit them off anyway. Jalen Turner, some of his recent opponents, Mateusz Gamrot's strike accuracy 69%, Malarkey strike accuracy 59%, Brock Weaver strike accuracy 70%. So the guys when Turner is standing and trading with guys at distance, he's getting hit. He's not exactly like a defensive savant. He's kind of relying on that big moment, rocking you and finishing you. But man, I just think if his chin is in decent shape here, which I don't see why it wouldn't be. I mean, he got put away by Chandler with the big punch. He got put away by Allen at 145. Edson Barboza ripped him to the body and put him away. But I think that Dan Hooker is getting written off a little too soon here.
I would say too, Jalen Turner a lot of times too, he doesn't really dodge leg kicks because he just looks to counter you like he did Brad Riddell, right? He does right off of a leg kick. But with Hooker being a little bit taller, I don't think the hands will be a little bit of as much of a thing that you could counter with. And I think that Hooker, if you remember the Paul Felder fight, Hooker used that calf kick a lot in that fight. He really fucked up Paul Felder's calf. So I definitely could see that being a factor here on both sides. Jalen Turner does fight both sides, but I don't think it matters. Like I think
Mostly
Hooker could
southpaw.
hit it both. Yeah, I think Hooker could hit him no matter what. Even go southpaw and hit him on the calf on that side. So I think the low kicks will be there or something that Dan looks to use.
Also, last point about this is Hooker coming off the Puelas win. Puelas isn't good, but I think he approached that fight very well. He just looked like he was extremely well prepared. It looked like he game planned, he drilled everything. He approached the fight really well. He executed it perfectly. I mean, that was a very good performance. I got some faith in the Hook here. So we're moving along to the middleweight division, premier division in the UFC. Robert Whittaker taking on Dricus du Plessis. DDP, as some call him. The odds for this one: Whittaker minus 400, DDP plus 300. So, Ozzy, you got to start it off as a historic DDP backer. What are you thinking about the toughest test of his career?
Amazing fight here. I mean, although I would have loved to see DDP fight Izzy right off the bat. I mean, he is trying to embark on the toughest two-fight deal in the history of MMA. Like, I need someone to come up with, if he won these two fights, what would be a crazier two-fight win streak? I don't know if there is a better back-to-back than what he's about to do. He's about to take on what the whole oceanic region. He's trying to take on the whole, like he's trying to do what his ancestors, I guess, couldn't do. Or did the Dutch, did they get to fucking Australia? I don't know. I wasn't that
Dutch.
great in the right. Well, who settled on in South Africa?
I think the English didn't they?
There's
I
definitely
don't know.
some Dutch. There's definitely some Dutch shit going on over there.
I'll research it while you talk about the fight. I'll get
Yeah,
back to
yeah,
you.
there's definitely some Dutch stuff going on over there in South Africa. I know that for certain. But I just love Dricus because Dricus, he's all about insane fights, fighting whoever he needs to fight. I mean, he's gotten a few soft ones, obviously softballs, but he don't need them. He's not asking for them really. He's like, hey, look, I'm looking to finish. He reminds me, like, every time. I just think he's so cool. He reminds me of like Johnny Bravo. Because, like, if Johnny Bravo became an MMA fighter, like, I think he'd be Dricus because he's like, just super jacked up top, right? Like, looks like a white gorilla, not impressive, legs at all. And is just in there kind of like, like these gorillas do, just chucking hammers and hooks, at guys. He's like the Francis Ngannou of
I
the
actually
middleweight
had to
division.
I had to Google Johnny Bravo. I did not know him.
That is insane, dude. That is I mean, you should watch. I mean, Johnny Bravo, amazing cartoon. Back in the, I guess,
A
the 90s that was.
yeah, a little before my time. Also, you were right. The
Amazing.
Dutch did colonize
Yes,
South Africa for about 150
exactly.
years.
Thank you. Yes, yes. So I paid attention. So thank you, Mr. Fairley. Shout out. Um, so yeah, it's just gonna be great. Obviously Robert Whittaker, after he got knocked out by Izzy, I remember I was saying, hey, I still got this guy number one as my number one middleweight. People were like, man, that's crazy. Obviously, you looked what he's done since, right? No finishes in about 6 years, not for a lack of trying. I mean, I feel guys respect obviously Robert Whittaker a ton, right? You saw what happened with, Marvin Vittori, he would have got knocked out. The thing is, like, Marvin, look how tough he is to knock out, but he also has got pillow for fists. Like, at some point there, he just stopped really trying and putting himself in danger. It's like in jujitsu, when a guy's like really not trying to escape, get up, submit you back, sweep you, anything. It's kind of hard to submit them because they're like, it's like, all right, well, the whole point is I'm just gonna hold you here or I'm gonna just, in MMA, that's why MMA is better because you can just elbow their face in if they can't get up and they're not doing anything. But in striking, it happens as well, But Whittaker, obviously, it's not gonna be a problem for Whittaker in this fight because Rickus is looking to take his head off as well. But I think we might get the best version of Bobby Knuckles that we've ever seen because I think he feels he's getting pissed, he's getting perturbed at all this talk about these guys and UFC Sydney. And there's no talk about UFC Sydney for like Robert Whittaker. Like, who's Robert Whittaker gonna fight on that card? This side and the third. So, I think that he's ready to do a lot of fucking vicious beating to Dricus du Plessis. But Dricus is ready for it. And I think he's gonna look to grapple at some point, get to some stalling positions, right? Maybe some back clinch positioning, some, double under positioning. I think he is going to eventually look to tie Robert Whittaker up, shoot over some leg kicks for sure, no doubt about that. But the hand speed of Robert Whittaker, I think, is going to be there for him. He just needs to look out for the counter because there's just sometimes where Dricus just decides he'll close his eyes literally to like block some punches, and he'll like close his eyes, and then he'll just decide that he's gonna like let out a burst back at you. And if you're not ready for it, man, he will knock you the fuck out. So, this fight, I'm gonna be so, my heart's gonna hurt. It's gonna be going back and forth. At the end of the day, I do think Robert Whittaker will clip Dricus a few times, hurt him, maybe finish him, maybe not. I do think I lean towards the finish because I think Rob is out for blood. But this is a spectacular fight. I'm definitely gonna need a smoke break after this one.
It is a spectacular fight, but I share the same sentiment where I'm a little upset because DDP is on this great streak. They had this beef going with Izzy, and I think it is extremely likely that DDP is going to lose this fight, and then he's going to be way to the back of the line. So and Izzy doesn't have a fight booked right now. He doesn't have a clear contender. Strickland and Cannonier are both kind of knocking at the door. But DDP, he's what had four UFC fights, four finishes. No, five UFC fights, four finishes, coming off a knockout over Derek Brunson on a pay-per-view. Four wins on pay-per-views in a row. Like, it was time. He should have fought Adesanya. So kind of they boofed it a little bit there. But Whittaker, I just think is gonna fuck him up. Honestly, I just think that nothing that DDP brings to the table outside of pure horsepower is gonna confuse Whittaker. Whittaker is a stud defensive wrestler. Don't see Dricus taking him down. He's a really solid striker, defensively sound, offensively potent. Great hands, great kicks. Just truly a tremendous fighter, possibly one of the best fighters ever above welterweight. In all the weight classes. And he's probably gonna fuck DDP up here. Not sure if he's gonna finish him. I'll go with no. I'll go with it will somehow stretch to like the third round. So I would be maybe looking to play like starts round 3, Whittaker 3 decision. I wonder what that is on FanDuel right now. I'll pull it up. I think it'll probably be about plus 150 or something for Whittaker or 3 decision. It is only plus 110, unfortunately. So I think you're better off just going with starts round 3 around pick 'em at those odds. And just hope the DDP is tough enough to take some shots. I mean, he is tough. He is very durable. Yeah, it'll be fun. A little upset we're not getting
It'll be
DDP
fun. It'll
versus
be
Izzy.
great. This is the best fight of the year. This is the
Nah,
best fight.
DDP's gonna
Number
get his
one
ass kicked,
fucking
bro.
fight. Number whatever,
DDP,
dude. It's gonna be fucking great along the way. The fact that they
hopefully.
give Robert Whittaker actually a real opponent. Marvin Vittori, that was a bullshit ass opponent. Some bunch of bullshit there.
He's
Marvin
a
Vittori
bigger
fought like a
favorite.
fucking
He's a bigger favorite.
Marvin. Perfect, dude. Marvin Vittori fought that fight like a fucking pussy, dude. And
He did.
I usually don't fight her bash, dude. But I was really upset that night because I really wanted to see Robert
Rory's a
Whittaker.
punk, yeah.
I wanted to see a body on the floor, all right? One way or another. I really don't want to see a Robert Whittaker body on the floor, but god damn it, if it has to happen, and let DDP be the fucking one to do it, dude. Let it fucking happen. is how I feel about it. But I'm just glad, dude, because like Robert Whittaker is just foaming at the mouth, dude, to really kill someone. He hasn't had like against Kelvin, dude. He was just too nice to him as well. So this fight's gonna be amazing. It's the best fight they made all year.
Um, Ozzy's excited. And DDP will be back, even if he loses, bro. Like the middleweight, it's kind of a crapshoot at the top, where one or two wins in a row can get you to the title. So, um, next fight is a trilogy. The first fight was on Tough, technically an exhibition, but this is basically a trilogy. Champion Brandon Moreno taking on challenger Alexander Pantoja. Odds for this one: champion Brandon Moreno -200, coming back with Pantoja as actually 210 now for Moreno, plus 180 for Alexander Pantoja. Pantoja won the first two fights, submitted him in the first fight, 30-27 him in the second fight. And actually, I think there was a 30-26 in there. And now he's the underdog, a sizable underdog, plus 180 versus the guy he's beat two times. So that obviously indicates that Moreno has improved more of the two. He's looking fresher lately. And, an angle that, Ozzy and I both, kind of missed in the Figgy fights is like Figgy won the first one, lost the second one, won the third one, but like they kept redoing the fight over and over again. And the younger guy with less miles on him was Brandon Moreno. So if they keep making the fight over and over and again, eventually it's going to favor the younger, fresher guy. And it did in the fourth fight, Moreno. And I kind of get the same inevitable feeling this will happen here. But I do suck at predicting rematches historically. But the way I'm thinking is rewatching their fights. Today Pantoja is actually the one outstriking him on the feet in the majority of that fight. I mean, he's boxing Moreno up. He didn't even need to take him down in the second fight. The first fight he submitted him. The second fight he just outboxed him on the feet the entire fight. So it has been 5 years since then. Moreno has a whole new confidence in him. His cardio is great. His durability is great. His striking has gotten a lot better. And it seems like Pantoja has kind of lost some confidence in his striking. It seems like his cardio has become a lot more unreliable. And I definitely think there's some very real questions about if Pantoja can go the full 5 rounds here. We're getting a little feedback in your mic, Ozzy. Can you unplug it real quick?
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so I am concerned about Pantoja. He hasn't gone the full 5 rounds. I mean, the round threes that he's been in have been pretty sketchy. So you can only imagine what 4 and 5 are going to look like. Meanwhile, Brandon Moreno been in a ton of 5 round fights lately. His cardio has looked incredible throughout some of them. But there's definitely got to be a psychological element. Moreno has lost 2 fights to this guy. He, is definitely going to be, weighing on his mind coming into this fight. But I early on, man, I really do think Pantoja can give him trouble both on the feet and on the floor. Obviously, he is a gifted back taker, great grappler. You saw the way he just murdered Alex Perez in his last fight, and I think with Moreno still being open to being taken down, we saw some of his tendencies. Once he gets taken down, he gets up the back. He did that in the Formiga fight. He got taken down a few times by Figueiredo. So I think Moreno will be there to be taken down. He will be his back will be there to be taken. And on the feet, Moreno is still hittable. His whole game is kind of absorbing one shot to land 2 shots, and it works because he's durable as hell and can go the full 5 rounds. But early on, I think he's going to be getting hit, and I think he's going to be getting taken down. If he can survive and not get finished, he probably will run away with it in the third, fourth, and fifth round. But Moreno is just like a live betting type of fighter, in my opinion. He tends to start slow, and I think Pantoja is probably going to come out the gate fast. Putting some pressure and some volume on him here. So, um, Pantoja is the side money line for me. I'll definitely be cheering for Pantoja to pull it off, but I don't actually think he will pull it off. I won't actually pull the trigger on Pantoja money line. The only bets I have in the fight are actually on Moreno. Moreno 345 KO plus 750 on FanDuel. Really like that one. And then I also like Moreno 345 sub at 25-1 on FanDuel. For a smaller bet, but I just think with the proven cardio edge of Moreno, with Toja's cardio looking suspect, I think the third, fourth, and fifth rounds will favor Moreno here, and Pantoja might look for a way out and get finished. So I like both those lines.
Yeah, these boys are gonna get into a scrap on Saturday for that flyweight belt. Pantoja definitely been waiting for this for a while. He lost. I remember when he lost that Askarov fight. Afterwards, he got like knee surgery. Came back. That was like a factor in me taking Manal Cop. Obviously, he beat Manal Cop, but was looking a little shaky in that third round. And then he had the two, I guess, submission wins afterwards, but over Royval and what's his name, the other dude, Perez that we
Yes.
were on. Yeah, so I mean, I've usually bet Pantoja fights very often. Um, but in a fight like this, it's just you're looking at it, you're looking at the over, and then you're looking at the Brandon Moreno money line, right? Obviously, the money line's been getting bet on the Moreno side. And then in the over, right? Neither of these guys, other than that right, the rear naked choke was the exhibition fight, right? So
It was.
neither of these guys have been ever finished, right? So they've only lost by decision. The over, I guess, is like minus 170. I think the last time I saw it. But then you're kind of thinking about it, you're like, man, like these two dudes are super hungry. They know each other's games really well. So, maybe do one of them have like an added wrinkle in there to maybe promote like a finish. I do think Brandon Moreno's grappling has gotten better, especially offensively. So I think a good defense maybe for him is a good offense. In this case, you don't really see Pantoja too much as like a guard guy. I mean, he has some sweeps. I mean, he had some slick stuff that he's done like against Askar and stuff like that. But I think they should negate them each other there. Pantoja's cardio rate obviously a worry in the finishing of the fight. And then you just see Moreno like in that third round against Pekar Fronts, that body kick he rips off. Like, but even other than that, like I think right before that is when he got up, but he just runs like the fervor that this little motherfucker has in these 3 4 5 fourth and fifth rounds is a little bit different than some of these other guys. So I think it's a tough uphill fight for Pantoja, but when I say uphill, it's like downhill first, then it's uphill, right? Because it's like he starts off, and obviously he can start off a fight like Alex Perez did, but the thing with it is Moreno has so much experience. He's so savvy. He's got the UFC machine behind him. He's got the paychecks rolling in. His fucking agency. Oh, they're like, oh look, we rented an office and we got this huge, nice mat space in here. So obviously they must be paying us something, decent. That all this stuff is going on. Pantoja's been laying in wait, hasn't been in too many contentious fights after that knee surgery, and even when in the ones that he has, like the Oscar fight, he just never looks really good in the third round. So I like Moreno here. Um, I'm gonna bet something in this fight. I'm not sure what yet, whether it's gonna be the money line, a prop, or like a prop for Moreno, or maybe a total. But I find myself investing in this fight. But I like Moreno to end up winning this at a certain point. I'll definitely be watching this closely on a live angle. Because Moreno, I feel like he could just turn. He's just a very flexible fighter. Like I feel like he could change the game plan really. Like if Pantoja is boxing him up, like he said, he could be like, "Fuck it, man, I'm just throwing these kicks." Like he didn't really use that many kicks. I feel early on in his career, and now I feel like it's definitely a great tool for him. Along with his wrestling and his get ups, and he just got a great MMA game to him. So I like Moreno here to keep the belt.
My hope is that Pantoja knows he's getting that championship money. He invests a little bit more into the steroid cocktail, gets some EPO in the system, gets the cardio figured out, and he goes a hard 5 rounds, backpacking Moreno here. That would be my hope. I'm kind of a Moreno hater for some reason. I don't really know why. Probably because I like Figueredo. But main event time for the unifying featherweight championship. Interim champion Yair Rodriguez taking on reigning defending champion Alexander Volkanovski. Odds for this one have Volk minus 350, Yair plus 285. Your turn to start this one off. Featherweight unification belt. Who you got here? Any bets you like?
Cool fight, Volkanovski. I think he should just fight at 145. Honestly, I hate this shit. Oh, one division is not the one of the division will keep you plenty busy, dude. Especially when he hits like 35. Respect. The guys comes in with the good game plans. I'm actually very interested in seeing this one because Volk traditionally he's a leg kick merchant, dude. Like he'll you give him one punch, he'll give you 4 leg kicks, dude. And that's how he rolled to the top for the most part. But obviously he's probably not going to really want to be in too much kicking range against Yair. Although he will use his kicks. That's the thing. That's the style matchup here. Because I'm always interested how people approach these Taekwondo karate dudes. Because they're fucking scary, dude. When these guys are running around throwing those shins at you and those feet, and then they karate chopping you with hands or back fisting you and throwing up elbows. This guy Yair should be in movies, dude. I don't know how this guy has not made out tons of money being doing a novela or a fucking movie. They need to get him onto something. Maybe he replaces Jackie Chan in the next Rush Hour. I heard they're gonna remake that. But so Volk, I think he's gonna jab his way in. I think eventually he's going to look to take Yair down, plant him on the ground, be like real like hips heavy, dropping ground and pound, passing off, leg dragging a leg by Yair, riding him from the back, looking to punch. But I think it's gonna be hard to finish this dude Yair because his cardio is insane. I don't know if he's on drugs or what, or if it's elevation or the Mayan or Inca blood. I don't know what it is, dude. They said he's training at some temple. I don't know what's going on with the guy, but his cardio, that fight against, I remember the Korean zombie one where you hit him at the elbow. Dude, I came in the next day. I would not shut up about it at work. And one of the guys is like, dude, show me what. And he, after I showed him, he couldn't shut the fuck up about it at work for like 3 hours afterwards. But that was an elevation, dude, and that was a crazy ass fight. So I think Volk is gonna have to mind his p's and q's with Ortega. Like he just saw the spirit of Ortega leaving him, like with every strike that he landed. Um, but with Yair, that doesn't happen, dude. It's like the fire intensifies. Like the fire just every time you hit him, it's like you're trying to pound them out, and he's like one another leg comes in, he starts elbowing you with more energy. So I can see this fight going all five. I think I saw some action on the under today, right? I think that you were talking to me about it, right? We were talking about that,
Yes.
but it's gone down further, correct? Right? It's now
Yes.
minus money, right? Minus 140 down, 130. What is it?
Well, it,
You
it
th-
opened to minus 165, and then it got some buyback on the over, and now the under is getting hit again.
well, the 4.5 is I'm seeing it now
135, I think.
is okay. Well, so it is 135. So man, I honestly think it's gonna be real tough. But obviously, the thing is, when you're thinking of a Yair fight, how is he gonna win? It's gonna be kicking this dude Volkanovski in the head overall. But I could just see this fight going the distance, man. I feel, I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna lean toward this fight going the distance, going over. If you could find a maybe a 3.5 or something like that. I don't know what the juice is, but look to snipe it. But I just feel that there is going to be a pace for a under, but I just think it's a little hard to hit Yair and hit at his range. And Volk is going to be minding his p's and q's. He really doesn't want to lose that belt. That championship money is really nice. They're paying these guys a lot extra now. I heard this from a primary source. That prime deal, but that Aussie deal, that Australian deal that they signed, all three events, bro, these guys get some good money off of that. Like, these guys specifically in that local market over there, they're huge. So Volk wants to keep that money train flowing. I think he'll mind his P's and Q's here. Slower fight. I'm gonna go with it goes the distance.
I hate to tell you that you're way off on this one. That this will end inside the distance. We got
Let's
some
hear it. Let's hear it.
bigly CLV on the line. Um, the thing is the Volkanovski. I understand Yair is tough. Um, but this is a fight where you would rather have the under because it might somehow stretch the full 5 rounds, but it will be like a scenario like Taporia and Emmett where like there are near finishes in the fight. There are moments where you think the doctor is going to stop it. There are moments you think the corner is going to stop it. I mean, if this goes the full 5 rounds, Volkanovski would have put a tremendous beating on Rodriguez. So if it somehow stretches the full 5 rounds and Yair, looks insanely tough, I'm okay with losing on the plus money under. But I got plus money plus 124 on the fight to end inside the distance, plus
I don't know,
250.
dude. Don't you remember even the shots he was hitting Korean Zombie with, dude? It's like Yair is gonna eat all that shit. Honestly, he
I don't
is.
think so, bro. I don't think
He
so.
is, dude. Yeah,
But, like, the
yeah.
thing is, but Korean Zombie was eating all those shots, but even the referee was like, "This is too much." Like, you are literally eating 10 punches a minute to the face, and a similar thing might happen here.
Yeah, you're
Um,
right. It could.
the leg kicks from Volkanovski could,
Leg kicks.
limit the Rodriguez movement. He could honestly take down and pound Yair out on the feet or on the ground. He doesn't I don't see like a TKO happening from that. I do sort of see what you mean. Like I have a hard time seeing like the exact finishing sequence because Volkanovski doesn't really drop guys clean on the feet. And Yair, his long legs kind of help him get
Bro, this
guard.
guy's scrappy, bro. He never quits. He never quits.
Yeah, but he gets hit a lot. He takes a
He
lot
get
of
he
damage.
when he gets hit, he does react a little awkward. Like a few times Emmett hit him, and you're like, whoa, you're like, but listen what I'm saying. You remember some of those elbows Emmett was hitting him with from the ground, and then he gets his wits back about him and he just triangles him. I'm like, man, this guy's tough, dude. If it was
Yeah,
me, I would have tapped out.
that was impressive, that win. But I just think that he's gonna hit a wall here. If he can't head kick Volkanovski in the first round or two, I think he's gonna be drawn pretty thin. It should be all Volkanovski in those late rounds. So I got Volk ITD, Fight in ITD, Volk 345. And I think Volk's gonna dominate honestly. Would
Woke is
be
woke.
I think Yair will give him trouble in rounds 1 and 2, but I honestly don't even think Yair is gonna win those rounds. I think it'll be around round 3 or 4 finish for Volkanovski here. So, that'll do it for us. But we do have one more thing. Oz, you let's introduce it.
So I was telling Martian, I'm like, hey Martian, let's do like a new segment. And I had to explain it to him, guys, for a long time. I explained it to him earlier in the week. I explained it to him again today, and then I asked him if he knew how to play, and he totally bought it. But regardless, water under the bridge. So
Hopefully, you guys can understand it better than I
we're
could.
gonna do a fuck, marry, kill. Okay. Now, what I'm gonna do is we're gonna give each other three betting lines. Now, it could be any lines. It could be money lines. It could be a round prop. It could be a total. Whatever. Doesn't matter, right? Obviously, people are betting a lot of different lines. Okay. Now, one thing that Martian was very hung up on, guys. He was reluctant because he was like, well, what if you give me something, three lines that I really like, and I have to kill one? Like, why would I kill a line? Like, Martian, you're not killing it overall. You're just killing it in comparison to the other two. And he really, guys, cannot wrap his head around that one. Okay. But so, disclaimer, if Martian likes all three lines, I guess maybe he'll fucking tell you. I don't know, dude. But just because Martian said, guys, just if Martian says to kill a line doesn't mean that you can't bet it, right? Shocker, right? I know, he really was hung up on that. That he
It's
thought if he killed the
basically
line, that you guys would be like, why would no? Like you guys wouldn't understand that he might want to bet it still, even if he killed it.
basically Ozzy's gonna say 3 lines, and then I'm gonna give which I like big, medium, small, basically. And
I
and vice versa.
everybody understands except for you. Okay, Martian. So you ready? You're batter up. All right. So we're going hooker inside the distance. All right, plus 500.
Okay.
Okay. So that's one for you. Hooker inside the distance plus 500. Pantoja money line plus 175. And let's do the over 1.5 and Manifield versus Crew. Fuck, Mary, kill. Between those three lines, Martian, go.
Fuck, would be Pantoja money line.
Okay,
Marry over 1.5 Menifeld.
got it.
Kill Hooker ITD.
Got it. Okay,
Oh, and
boom.
I actually messed up. It's not big, medium, small. It's medium, big, small. Because
Whatever, dude.
the fuck is a smaller investment than the marry is. Okay.
Boom.
So my 3
Perfect.
lines, all money lines, all around the
Left.
same price.
Nice.
Daniel Hooker money line plus 240, Robbie Lawler money line plus 205, Marcin-Prachnio money line plus
Oof.
240.
Damn, all the high ballers. Okay. So I'm gonna fuck. Um, I think I gotta, man. I'm gonna fuck the Robbie Lawler the money line, because I definitely want some of that. It's definitely some investment there. I'm killing Prachnio. I've
Yep.
never been a Prachnio guy. That guy could never step foot in the octagon. No sweat off my back. And then we're obviously marrying Dan Hooker, because Dan Hooker, proven lightweight veteran, taking on a guy right here who is going to give him the type of fight that he wants.
Not
Experienced and
retiring. Also, he's not
not
retiring.
retiring. He just got new tattoos, bro. He's got to get a few, octagon picks with the tattoos on his shins. So he's definitely not retiring. So that would be. I think you would agree with those. That's how you probably would have done those.
I was actually thinking I would swap. I would go
Prachnio.
fuck Hooker, marry Lawler, kill Prachnio.
That's what I said. Oh
No. You said marry.
Right.
You said marry Hooker. I'd swap them.
Yes.
So
sounds good.
That will be it. We'll see how the people like it. We'll see if everybody understands it. Not. I don't think internationally, fuck, marry, kill is played. I
No,
think
Martian, it is
internationally. Internationally, you think?
Absolutely.
I don't know about that.
Dude. Yes, dude. I think all humans. All humans.
Well, drop a comment if y'all are in a different country. Do you have fuck, marry, kill? If so, what's it called in your country? But that'll do it for this week, guys. We got International Fight Week, fun pay-per-view going down this weekend. Another card next week. Don't look at the card for next week. I warn you, just don't look at it. But we'll be back before that one with the podcast. So thank you to Ozzy for joining me as always, giving some hard-hitting analysis. Hope you all enjoy the fights, win some bets, and we'll see you all before the next UFC event next week. Peace out, everyone.